Alrighty, guys, we are going to go ahead and get started again with play posits. Again, hopefully you will either be in a station doing this or we may do it in a whole group, but regardless, we will see how it goes going with this next semester. Today we're talking about the Tang Dynasty and the spread of Buddhism. Here's three vocab words that you'll need to know that we'll be talking about today. Bureaucracy is unelected government officials. So these are anyone working for the government. This could be someone who's putting in a service project, sort of a police force, anything like that, someone working for the governments. Imperial state is, whenever we talk about that, will be the Empire of China, and then dynasty, a series of rulers of the same family. So, for example, if you know Duck Dynasty, they're all in those same family. Or if we say, the Han Dynasty lived for 200 years or was around for 200 years, the Hans, there wasn't one of them that lived for 200 years. It was multiple rulers over and over. So, that is the vocab we'll be looking at today. And I have spent the last hour trying to figure out how to record just the screen so I won't have to hold the phone. But I gave up. So, sorry. I'll get better, hopefully, one day. All right, so today we'll look at the Tang Dynasty and how they strengthened and unified China and helped bring in a golden age. So, remember, China was like the Dark Ages before this, before Confucianism, before what we're talking about today. A lot of wars, just craziness. All right, so no need to know about that. Scene 1, textbook, page 80, the Tang Dynasty, if you want to refer to that. But the Tang Dynasty was the golden age in China, and I'll have the notes on here for play posit. But it helped unify China by restoring strong government. How does it do this? Having civil service exams, so ensured only smart, skilled people work for the government. Sometimes you had to study Confucius's teachings, which could take a very long time because he wrote quite a bit. And some people would study for years, and the test could take up to 3 days. So, yeah, not a test that I don't think any you or I would want to take based off knowing you guys, but maybe. So civil service exams, this ensured that the best people were working for the government. Your most skilled people were working for the government. Scene 2, growth and trade. Again, page 180 if you want to look at it. All right, so also the Tang Dynasty built roadways, waterways, and seaports. This reopened the Silk Road, made it safe again. So these roadways, waterways allowed for other countries, other empires to come in and trade with China, reopening the Silk Road, making it safe again. So now you are in business. China is in business because they have smart people working for them for the government. They're basing everything they do off of Confucius, and with trade, you're talking about more money, more roadways, more waterways, and seaports. With the Silk Road being reopened, it made it safe again. All right, so that is looking at this one right here. I can explain the Tang Dynasty maintained strong civilized government through the use of civil service exams and Confucianism. So the Tang Dynasty was able to look at how to get back on track because China had fallen off track big time. How did they do it? Centralized government, civil exams, and Confucianism. Now we're going to look at how Buddhism arrived and grew in China. All right, so again, now you can refer to page 182, Buddhism in China, and how did Tang rulers view Buddhism. Okay, so a lot of times we think of Buddhism and we think China. All right, when we go to maybe Chinese restaurants, you see the statues and different things like that. So we think of China when it comes to Buddhism. But actually, Buddhism started in India, and then it is going to spread to China. Again, we have the Himalaya Mountains right here that people went through, and then the desert also up here. So, Buddhism is now spreading through or to China. Tang officials, however, again, Tang Dynasty, they feared that Buddhism was growing influenced. They were scared of it. They thought it was going against who? Confucius. So, in 845 AD, Tang government destroyed many Buddhist temples and monasteries. So this is how the Tang Dynasty felt about Buddhism. And Buddhism would eventually spread to North Korea. And then eventually goes to Japan. So, Buddhism, again, how did the Tongs feel about it? They destroyed many of the temples and monasteries. They thought it was a threat. So, now you can explain how Buddhism grew in China. So, Buddhism under Tang Dynasty, here's some notes that we will look at. Buddhism began in India and arrived in China by the traders and missionaries from the Silk Road. Buddhism grew during the Han and Tang Dynasty. However, Buddhists were persecuted later because it distracted people from Confucius' teachings. People under the bureaucracies, the government officials under the Tang Dynasty, they loved their guy Confucius, so they did not want anything that would threaten him. Buddhism also spread to Korea and Japan as Buddhists fled Tang rulers. Now, Tang Dynasty would lighten up a little bit, I guess you could say, and they used what is called Neo-Confucianism. This was a blend of Buddhist and Confucius ideas. So it's not really about, one way is right, one way is wrong. The two sides kind of came together and said, you know what, the idea of Buddhism has some good ideas, but the Confucius guy, he has some good ideas too. So let's blend them together, and that is known as Neo-Confucianism. So again, in the play posit, like we always do, I will do the notes. And that will conclude today's lesson. Hello, everyone. There's probably saw the wild child Tatum next to me, but it is what it is. Yeah, we are done for today. Again, this will either be in stations or whole groups, so your play posit will have further instructions.